प्रणाम, नमस्कार, सभी का स्वागत है। मेरे भाई आज डॉक्टर रवि नारायण आचार्य भी यही हैं, आदरणीय डॉक्टर मदन थंगवेलु जी, वेंकट जोशी जी, विष्णु प्रसाद शर्मा जी, डॉक्टर ए.के. जैन जी, वैद्य देवांशु जी, वेंकट जोशी जी, सभी को नमस्कार, बहुत बहुत नमस्कार।
नमस्कार सर। नमस्ते।
क्षमा कर कीजिएगा। आज इंडिपेंडेंट रिसर्च एथिक्स सोसाइटी और आयुष दर्पण फाउंडेशन के साथ ये एक नया सीरीज हम लोगों ने शुरू किया। वी हैव स्टार्टेड अ न्यू सीरीज ऑन जीसीपी टू एजुकेट द इंडियन सोसाइटी regarding system of clinical research for Ayush medicines, and we are really grateful that within short notice of 2 days, Dr. Ravi Narayan Acharya and Ms. Bhumi both have accepted our offer. Thank you very much. And now I would like to hand over the stage to moderator and host Dr. Mr. Darshit Joshi and Dr. Parikshit Devnath. Swagatam, dhanyavad. Now stage is yours, Darshit, please.
Let me welcome everyone on the 180th and the 3rd of GCP series of this webinar, and we are very happy to all the distinguished speakers who have accepted our invitation within the short time. Today is the Guru Purnima. It's really a blessed day for us, and I'm very happy to see all my gurus over here. I really, appreciate, and I really want to take their blessings for all the success and all the happiness around us. And may I, wish for their and pray for their health and happiness. With this, let me invite Sir Madan Thangavelu sir. Madan Thangavelu sir is not requiring any more introduction, as he is a genome biologist from Medical Research Council Laboratory of Molecular Biology, Cambridge. He is also a research director of European Ayurveda Associate. He has done a tremendous job for ASU medicine and particularly for Ayush. And I would like to request Professor Madan Thangavelu sir to enlighten us on today's subject, as well as inaugurate this webinar for rest of the speakers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please, Madan Thangavelu sir.
Namaskar ji. Darshit ji, thank you very much for having me here. Thanks to Pavan ji for organizing these series of webinars, and most of all, for bringing so many exciting, wonderful people together. And this is important. These discussions that are happening over the past many months now that Pavan ji has inspired us with is very, very important to enable new directions for us. And the environment, as we all know, excuse me, the past more than a year, the world has been exposed to a new challenge, and we are rethinking many aspects of health and well-being. And it is in this context that a new energy has come into all of us. It's a challenge for all of us to understand many aspects of health and how within this area, what is it that Ayurveda is doing, particularly Ayurveda. There's also sister sciences, Ayush, Siddha medicine. They're also part of this whole game. Some aspects of yoga also come into this. And in all of these happenings, the big question is that people are asking is, will it benefit not only with the ongoing crisis, but so many other pandemics? Obesity is a huge pandemic, for instance, silent pandemic. There are so many other problems that are going on, health-related issues. Are we understanding health correctly? Are we understanding the etiology? And what is it that we can do in terms of clinical trials? And what are the prerequisites for clinical research? And in this context, there is a feeling around the world that the traditional systems, the Ayush systems, have a big role to play. If we look at WHO in Geneva, the global headquarters, you will see the work that's going on. They have a small group there looking at traditional medicine. What is the dialogue that is happening there? What is it that we can contribute? What are the questions they are asking about the validity of our science? And these are all big challenges for Ayurveda, because the way Ayurveda has grown up until now is that it has had a certain confidence about how we look at health. We look at the life of the human life. And we've see clearly in the text that there are many concepts within. One is, of course, the curative aspect, but there are also concepts of health promotion, health maintenance, and disease prevention. Now, these are three areas where Ayurveda is particularly strong, and much of our emphasis today is on the curative side. But if we take care of the first three, then you don't need to worry about the curative side because you don't get that far. So in that context, there are many principles that people are working on, particularly for the COVID problem. Here at the University of Edinburgh, in the department in the virology section, there is a research going on doing neti, gel neti, for preventing COVID. And the researcher there of Indian origin, a virologist, he even says that you can cure the early stages of this problem using simple gel neti. Researchers in Pune, we have a group in Pune who are looking at this aspect. And there is an opportunity to make a dialogue happen, which is globally important at a time when all we are presented is vaccines as a way to prevent this thing. In the Siddha system, there are studies going on in India on using a herb and a herbal formulation that is consistent with some of the Ayurveda principles. The herb being used is Andrographis paniculator, Kalameg. So where is our research in connecting with this? What is the principle? How did that formulation come about in the Siddha system? Kalameg, as you all know, is a bitter herb. What is the role of a bitter herb in understanding human health? Is any research going on there? Is a clinical study going on there? In some of our discussions with my discussions with Pawan ji, I pointed to a CRO in Meerut who are working on a formulation that has Kalameg as a very important ingredient. But somehow the way that formulation is made is using extracts from these plants. Now, is that consistent with Ayurvedic and Siddha principles? And there are many questions of this kind that come up. So when we go into this phase, the question then is, what is it that we are trying to research on? What are the clinical research aspects and what are the clinical research questions? And what should it be consistent with? So we are doing clinical research. What are the fundamental principles that these research designs must be consistent with? And as I was talking earlier, Ayurveda talks about three very distinct areas where they are intertwined, of course. The deepest principles, the tattvas, the shastras that are described based on the tattvas, and then we come to the area where the public interfaces with, which is mostly the vyavahar aspect of principles of Ayurveda. Much of the clinical research that we are going on is at that end, the vyavahar side. Now, the dominant narrative in the vyavahar side is that a design that is based on Western medicine principles. And I feel that is the first challenge we have in terms of prerequisites in clinical research. I see a clash between how we do clinical research, whether it's particularly when we are looking at Ayurvedic formulations and Ayurvedic interventions on the curative side. There is a clash that I feel there is a correction that needs to be made, and it will not happen immediately because the people who are doing the clinical trials don't appreciate the tattvas and the shastras. And that dialogue needs to happen. And that dialogue is an important dialogue because there is a big surge in across the whole world on personalized precision medicine and treatment. personalized precision logic is completely consistent with Ayurveda. That is what Ayurvedic principles of Prakriti talk about. And I see a lot of opportunity for having interactions there between the modern medicine researchers and Ayurvedic understanding of the Prakriti concept. And that dialogue is not happening, but clearly that is a dialogue that can come into this clinical research area very easily. And number two is the three other pillars that I talked about prevention of ill health, based on maintenance of health and health promotion. These are areas where a lot of clinical research can happen. And I don't see any research in that area, not only clinical research, even academic research is very, very thin in that space. The area of that is not considered very exciting in Ayurveda, the area of Swasthavrit and the principles of Dinacharya and Ritucharya. These are areas where one can do a lot of basic clinical research to understand how the physiological processes behind Dinacharya, Ritucharya work. Now, is this something that is not going to be exciting? I don't think so, because you will see a couple of years ago, the Nobel Prize for Physiology Medicine was given to something that is extremely consistent with the thinking of Dinacharya, Ritucharya. Ayurvedic principles of Ritu Sandhi, for instance. It is so well understood that there is a cyclical process going on in the human body, when with every 2 months, based on the Vedic calendars, there is a requirement, there is a stipulation in Ayurvedic Ritucharya on something called the Ritu Sandhi and what is needed to be done at this specific phase. How can we integrate and how can we bring out those principles in our clinical research? What needs to be done? Because right now the motivation for clinical research is to do research based on directions that are given to us from organizations who are working in a different domain. Is there an opportunity for a dialogue? I think there is an opportunity for a huge dialogue, particularly at a time where health budgets around the world are being compromised because of ongoing problems and the general condition that people are starting to feel that a lot of government funding is being wasted on preventable disease. In the UK, for instance, if we look at the type 2 diabetes direct costs for the health service, we see problems there. Daily spend of almost 23 million pounds every day is being spent every day on type 2 diabetes direct care, and 80 to 90% of this is preventable. So there are opportunities there. And the last point I just want to touch on very briefly, which is very topical and extremely suited for Ayurvedic clinical researchers and academicians, is the area of post-COVID or long COVID. I'll give you the UK example. We have approximately 70 clinics today servicing about 1.2 to 1.3 million people in the UK who are suffering from long COVID, post-COVID issues. This is an area that is completely alien to any of modern medicine specializations. It has to be understood using a slightly more holistic approach. And in discussions with Vaidyas across India, particularly in Kerala, we now have a feeling that we can understand many of these principles using the Ayurvedic concept. So when they look at the patients in Kerala in particular, when they look at patients who are having long COVID, post-COVID, what they say is the symptoms look like Rasadhatu Shaya. Now, this is a very beautiful idea because it really is a holistic concept, Rasadhatu Shaya. How do you understand Rasadhatu Shaya? You have a rich language. You talk about lakshanas. You know how to understand this complicated problem. And when you look at lakshanas, you can then devise treatment procedures. So the description that we've been given is the possibility to use Agastya Rasayana. Now, Agastya Rasayana is a very interesting formulation that helps with many lung functions, for instance, when we look at the ingredients. And it uses goat milk. What is specific about goat milk in these treatments? And can we do a trial here? So for people who are doing clinical trials, I would suggest a more exciting dialogue between the clinical research as being done today, looking at existing opportunities. Now, the example I gave you of about 1.3 million people with long COVID, that is for a population of just about 66 million people for UK. If you go into America, it will be much, much more. If you go into the rest of the 27 countries of the European Union, it will be much, much more. The European Union has not even recognized that there is this problem. And I feel there are areas like this where if we look at our principles, look at our tattvas and shastras, and have a vibrant dialogue with senior Vaidyas across the country, we might not get the complete answer, but we will understand some way to look at this problem, and we will be able to show the world that we can approach complex problems using the elegant language and the designs of Ayurveda. So in terms of today's webinar, my feeling is there are many prerequisites that we need to satisfy, most of all, to be consistent with our tattvas and shastras. And for that, for people who are not familiar with our tattvas and shastras, we have immense opportunity. We have educational institutions. We have All India Institute of Ayurveda in Delhi, full of very learned people who can help us enable those futuristic clinical trials. And those futuristic clinical trials based on tattvas and shastras are completely consistent with the need of personalized precision therapy. And the example I want to highlight again is that of post-COVID. Only personalized precision therapy is going to help in many of the individuals who are suffering from this condition. So I'm excited that this dialogue is happening between Ayurveda groups and senior academicians like Acharya ji, who's here with us. I really look forward to seeing how we can have a vibrant dialogue here, how we can then design clinical trials and show the world that from the so-called tattva shastras, from the deep principles of Ayurveda, we can come up with contemporary trials that will benefit contemporary problems, that can also bring a new dialogue in the Ayurvedic domain and how the world looks at Ayurveda. So thank you so much for having me today. I've shared just a few thoughts. I haven't given you any of the fine principles. I haven't gone into the biochemistry, the cell biology, genetics. I haven't touched any of those principles. I've just taken a very broad outlook on where I feel we have opportunities and where I feel we should be going. And I hope we will keep these discussions going informally and as searching for new ways and new collaborations between people who are doing clinical research and the Ayurveda Ayush community, particularly to present this science to the world, that we have understood what this science is and we can. Thank you so much. Namaskar. Namaskar.
Thank you. Thank you.
नमस्कार सर, नमस्कार. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आपका. मैं रवि नारायण जी का परिचय मैं भी थोड़ा देना चाहता हूं. मेरे छोटे भाई हैं, बहुत दिनों से परिचित हैं.
चलेगा सर, थोड़ा बहुत बात करते हैं.
नहीं, बिल्कुल. मतलब परिचय इतना लंबा है.
अरे सर
नहीं, आप सूर्य को देखो, आप लोग सूर्य हैं, दैदीप्यमान सूर्य हैं, तो सूर्य को दिया दिखाने की चेष्टा हम लोग कैसे कर सकते हैं?
अरे नहीं,
ये नहीं. Dean ITRA, renowned dignitary of Ayurveda and clinical research, I would like to welcome my dear brother Ravi Narayan Acharya ji.
नमस्ते सर.
Hari Om.
Namaste.
Swagatam.
Welcome, sir. Please enlighten us. Acharya sir.
Yeah.
with due respect, already Dr. Pawan Sharma has mentioned everything. Now, I'm a much junior and I cannot, go beyond Dr. Pawan Sharma now. So he has already introduced you. Let me tell everyone that
He doesn't need any introduction. He is so popular between clinical research executives. Nobody.
Yes, sir. Sir, kindly allow me to share my slide.
please.
Darshit, please make co-host. Yes, now you can share, sir. I have made co-host. Welcome.
Very good afternoon. Namaste to all. Respected my senior, Pawanji, and most senior law person, Ayurveda, Dr. Pawan Thongwali ji, my teacher, respected Vishnu Sharma ji, there, and my friend, my colleague, Dr. Arjun Singh, the co-speaker of the today's session, Dr. Bhumi, Dr. Darshit, Dr. Upadhyay, Dr. Devnath, and Dr. Anil, those who are in the screen, and Dr. Jain also. So with Dr. Venkatesh Joshi ji, my senior at Jamnagar, and I thank Professor Pawan, Dr. Pawan sir, to give me this opportunity. Though it was a very short notice, with respect, due respect to Pawan ji, I tried to prepare in a short notice. Though I am my subject is of Dravya Guna, but I do have experience with clinical trials. So, with due respect to Pawan ji, I have tried my best to let the think with my experience that what the clinical research prerequisites, particularly, and I thank Madanji that for what I want to share, he has very briefly and very precisely told about what should be the requisites for a clinical trial in Ayurveda. In a clinical trial in Ayurveda. So that in the next 25 minutes, I will be sharing. That is, generally we do know that there are two types of clinical study. One, under the clinical study, we have the clinical trials and observational studies, but it is many times used under the name of clinical trials. Both the clinical studies synonym is as a synonyms to the clinical trials. So this observational study and clinical trials will be much about the conventional system of medicine. Dr. Bhumi will deal, I think, with that. And particularly conventional, they are the sponsored and sponsored and academic research, and we have a specific guidelines. My presentation will be being based on the guidelines developed by CCRS for clinical research. In the modern science, particularly in the conventional system of medicine and allopathy, there are steps involved. Particularly when we start a clinical research, we have to take the approval in Indian scenario, and after the permission of the ethics committee and registration, clinical CTRI registration, it is according to ICMR guidelines, it is must for a prerequisite to start a clinical research, a clinical study in conventional system of medicines. And this, there are steps. I am not going into the details. Dr. Bhumi will tell. I will directly jump to Ayurveda. So these are the documents required, minimum documents required for the clinical trials in case of synthetic drugs, and ethical approval, registrations, and particularly reporting of the clinical trials. The financial part, what are the registration fee, everything to start a sponsored clinical research, what are the requisites, that is a financial part, how much amount of money you have to deposit, all these things is there, and that format for its review, all these things. And in case of academic trials, this somewhat differs from this sponsored clinical trials. And particularly, it is not much auditable in terms of sponsored clinical trials. But now I am coming to my field, that is particularly the areas and clinical trials prerequisites in case of Ayurveda. Dear sir and madam, particularly as Professor Madan told in his inaugural remarks, prerequisites here in case of Ayurveda, a researcher must be aware about the area under which he or she is going to do the research. He must be well convinced about what he told, the tattva and the shastra, both. He must be well conversed with the tattva and shastra of Ayurveda. Then only we can have a good clinical trial on Ayurvedic principles and Ayurveda principles in particular. And so that we can show the world how robust the Ayurveda principles are, and we can have a standardized. Though we have to follow, no doubt, we have to follow the modern parameters, modern statistical tools to prove it is mandatory to have the statistical tools and the modern parameters to prove our science in a proper way. So generally, the areas of research in Ayurveda, but the clinical research is being going on in the country. Fundamental principles of Ayurveda, based upon that, what Dr. Madan told, that is Swasthya with preventive and curative. We are more focused nowadays toward curative, but Ayurveda highlights much on the preventive aspects. So the clinical researcher, he who wants to do research project, to have a clinical project in Ayurveda, he must be find out the themes and find out the lacuna in research gaps in case of preventive, more so the validation of fundamental principles, then validative and development of diagnostic and assessment tools are also there areas where clinical researches are being carried out at academic level, much on academic level, less on, because all these things are not sponsored. Very less sponsored clinical trials are being carried out in Ayurveda as on today. And maximum research are of academic level, and some art of research organizations like CCRS and Siddha and Unani Homeopathy, their central research organizations, they are carrying out certain researches on validation and develop diagnostic tools. Recently, their tools, particularly the clinical trial standardization of the Khyara Sutra in CCRS, that has been made, and trials are been now continuing under standardization Khyara Sutra statement with particularly therapy for Khyara Sutra. Standardization, validation of therapy and procedures, some Panchakarma procedures, what we are doing the practice, what we are practicing, what we are clinicians are nowadays, we are doing the research that needs also a proper standardized way to present our work before the international community. We are conducting, no doubt, the research on clinical validations of Panchakarma or Khyara Sutra or Ratnamokshana. All these are areas. If you go to the researcher, dear friends, if you search on Google, that is, if you found the procedural research of traditional Chinese medicines, you will find hundreds of papers in Scopus or PubMed index journals. But as in today, if you search in Ayurveda, you will find very few research on this type of so-called index journals with our fundamental principles. In very few numbers are there. So it's a vast area that we need that part also. The establishment of dosage form also at the academic level, clinical research are being going on, and duration and dose. As you all know, in Ayurveda, dose is not at all. It is a factor totally given authority to the physician. No, in maximum cases, the dose is not properly exactly fixed in case of herbal drugs, because there's many factors that are responsible for fixing the dose. So that is another area where also clinical researches are being going on. Indications as per the classics, that is a normal routine way, and develop a new regimen, particularly the classical formulations with new indications, or the certain patent medicines or certain traditional medicines being scientifically claimed. So these are the research areas, clinical research areas where the research has been going on. So a prerequisite in this case, what I feel is if the researcher, the clinical, these are the research areas where a person who wants to do prerequisite in modern terms, maybe what for phase 1, phase 2, before phase 1 and phase 2 trial, what are the prerequisites, that is in different terms. But in case of traditional research, what I feel that prerequisite is the researchers, scientists must be well accustomed with all these fundamental principles. So in this way, different stakeholders, when the expertise of the investigators, proper implement the so-called modern tools and their standardized drugs and availability of the parties, particularly the cooperation of the, that is the Chikitsa Chatuspada, we can say, and then they can come together and have a particularly the outcome, that is research outcome, that what we call in Ayurveda Upaya. So in that way, our research requisites is essential. And among the prerequisites for a clinical trial in Ayurveda, the first and foremost thing comes is the quality of the drug what we are going to use in the clinical study. The same case is also for synthetic drugs. The first is for them is the drug quality. What are the drugs that we are doing? Quality assurance standardization of the trial drug. So this drug needs to be what we are, if our the basic things, the drug is not proper, then the clinical trial is nowhere stands in a. That's why we cannot validate. We cannot. Many cases we are observing that the drug, whatever we are using, is not. We are not in a position to revalidate the same in the same clinical conditions at different parts of the country. So that is the key for that. That's why standardized drugs is one of the most important factor for as a prerequisite for clinical research, particularly the drugs in case of the availability of the passport data, particularly of the herbal drugs. Whatever the research we are carrying out, in that passport data of the drug is highly essential. We are in many cases the passport data of the raw drugs or particularly the mineral origin or of the herbal origin drugs, we lack in that aspect. So that is highly essential. Then physical characteristics, annual passport data, standard operating procedures for the preparations. That is good collection practice, good storage practice, and that comes good manufacturing practice. So a drug, whatever the drugs is supposed to be used in the clinical trials, the prerequisite is that drug must be standard one. The drug, whatever should come to the clinical trial, must be of GMP approved pharmacy. Then only we can have and with proper palatable dosage form. And that palatable dosage form, it may be palatable or somewhat other thing where bitter, we have the Anupana concept, and that must standardize in terms of its stability study, in terms of its preliminary pharmacopoeial standards of safety aspect. That is aflatoxins, all this. So the standard of preparation, then certificate analysis of both raw material, that this part covers this certifications of the raw drug, particularly the finished product, that they are safe in terms of heavy metal analysis, heavy metal content, or aflatoxin, because these are the things where Ayurveda is blamed in the international scenario. So these are the prerequisites that a drug, whatever is going to be used in Ayurveda, in a clinical trials in Ayurveda, must be of standard one. That is the first and foremost target. Then the next point comes is safety toxicity studies. Dear friends, this aspect is a debatable one. In Ayurveda, particularly the CCRS, what are the guidelines given by the CCRS and the Drugs and Cosmetics Act, but it's being told there that ICCRS just gives the guidelines, and we need the page 1 study. There are different guidelines. I'll come to that later. But what for the guidelines for this traditional medicines, patent medicines, and for the newly developed drug. So there, in some cases, if the drug you are using a drug of new indication, though it's a classical product, we have a new indication, then we need to have a different phase of trials there. And the drug, particularly drugs of Schedule E1, if our drug, our trial drugs, it may be a patent or proprietary, if it contains any one of the Schedule E1 drugs, that it must be have it must pass through its toxicity study. So this type of study must be carried out before a clinical trial being started. Then what Professor Madan told in his inaugural remarks, that a physician, now I am citing an example of if we were conducting a clinical trial on Panchakarma. If we are planning a clinical trial on Panchakarma, then suitable, what are the to whom we are going to do the everything, the principal investigator, our clinical pro forma, our assessment details must be Ayurveda oriented, and if this pro forma or this clinical executive, particularly the SRF, JRF, whoever involved in this clinical research program must be aware about the to whom we are going to do the Panchakarma, whether they are suitable or not, and what are the pre and post therapeutic procedures and the season, because each and every part, every concept, every procedures, every part in this Panchakarma procedure have their own significance. If the season is different, then we are not going to have the good results. Then we will blame Ayurveda. Then if you are what are the post precautions and post precautions, post therapeutic precautions we have to taken. If we are not taking, the complications will be there, and the success will be there. So a physician, then what are the possible? Because we all know in the pharmacovigilance concern, there in our Charak Samhita, a separate chapter has been dedicated for the procedural that is material vigilance. What material vigilance, the newly developed branch of pharmacovigilance in a modern system of medicine since last 5 to 10 years of material vigilance. The procedural vigilance, particularly the material vigilance, is a branch of Charak period that is before 500 BC. So at that point of time, have highlighted this type of vigilance, of procedural vigilance, or what we call the material vigilance, there in the Charak Samhita, along with the drug vigilance, all these things. And we have the concept of cosmetic vigilance along in our classical. So all these parts must be taken into consideration. Duration of each procedures, then possible complications, dietary lifestyle guidelines, quality of the medicines, subject divergability parameters of the evaluation. Everything must be secured that that is the prerequisite, that then only we can have a good clinical trial. Then particularly the Purva Karma, Pradhana Karma, Paschat Karma, and Sansadharma Karma, at all these things, detailed procedures, detailed things, a physician, the prerequisite, he must be well aware and must get ready, prepared, ready for this clinical trial. Only not that in case of synthetic drugs, some legal procedures are there. That is, we have to get ourselves prepared. But to have a quality research in Ayurveda, a physician must be well versed with the Ayurvedic fundamental principles and with the well knowledge about the modern tools. Then, in case of Khyara also, and in case of Agni Karma, in case of Rakta Mokshana, all these procedural details are being well noted. That prerequisite is very essential. Then, in some cases, data analysis of the we need the data analysis of the pilot study, because in many cases in Ayurveda, whatever the preliminary studies were carried out, then it's possible that the time, cost, feasibility, adverse effect, the person who is the principal investigator must be aware about what is modern science. In the synthetic, they call that phase 1 or phase 2 study, because in many cases we our advisory also allow us to go to the direct for the phase 3 trial or phase 2 trial, but physician, investigator must be well aware about the previous whatever the data available in the classical test about the drug. Then the major part is your study protocol. This comes a long total study design. We have to think in that aspect. So general information, particularly background of the scientific research, whether scientific rationality, we have to think about the study. That is, the protocol must be well designed. It must be having the number, the date, or the should be the name and address, detailed address of the contact person, the principal investigator. That type of things is generally the details must be there. Then research question, research question and hypothesis. That is one of the most important things based upon which we are going to prove, we are going to have a good clinical trial based upon our the research gap analysis, what we call in Ayurveda the pratisthapana. But that is the most essential things. Our hypothesis and based upon the research gap and the research questions, our hypothesis must be robust. So there we can have a good clinical study being to be carried out there. Then another is a description and justification for the population to be studied. Then what are the interventions we are going to, and if a physician, the principal investigator must be well aware about the potential risk and benefit, both aspect of the, if we are using certain Google preparations, if we are using certain mineral preparations, particularly the heavy metal preparations in Ayurveda in the clinical trial, we must know about the risk factors and what are the possible adverse effects if comes. Then we must be in a position to prescribe the rescue medicine in that conditions. Take it example of a Vata patient. In Vata patient, if the pain goes up very high, then what we have a plan to think of that managing that conditions. We must be aware. A investigator must be get ready himself before all these things. That these are the possible things, and all this study plan or the research plan must be well designed in that aspect also, and the principal investigator should keep himself or herself ready to manage that situation also. And what are the benefits? Because we have to make the patients aware about the risk and benefit of the drugs. So that is also very well needed that time. Then study objectives. The study objectives as a statement of the purpose, general purpose, and specific purpose is to be clearly noted. And particularly the investigator must be well aware about the for what purpose the study is being carried out. So if it is sponsored research, because in some academics and now though the pharma companies are not much coming forward so much for the clinical studies of their product before marketing. We are considering the present law into consideration. But in many cases, in some good pharma companies, those are active, just like Imami, they are conducting certain, before marketing, they're conducting clinical trials, and so that they also doing a good type of marketing in that case. So in that case, if we are having some company sponsored, particularly just like I know that Imami and the Pawanji, that their company is doing a good job by sponsoring the clinical research from getting their before it marketing side. So there, the person who is the principal investigator must be aware about the for what purpose, what target oriented the drug is being the research is being designed, and a specific purpose, particularly for the disease conditions. Now many companies are not covering the Ayurvedic line, but they are coming the a whole therapy in just symptomatic therapy. But here the purpose should be specific, and if it is more specific and Ayurveda oriented, based upon the dosha, dusha, dhatu, all these things, then it will be more best clinical applications will be there. Then study outcomes. The study outcomes of this any clinical study, it must be well defined. What are the primary outcomes and what are the secondary outcome measures it's supposed to be there. So in this way, if you are going to assess, a physician is going to assess the outcomes month-wise basis or week-wise, based upon the drug, based upon the disease conditions. If it is a 1 week study of 1 week of managing the cost, managing the, and in some cases long-term disease conditions, arthritis, hypertension, and particularly diabetes patients, the long-term durations. So in that way, how to assess the study, assess the parameters with particularly time, giving the timeline consent. That is after 1 week assessment, what should be the 1 week, 15 days, 1 month before, after 3rd month, all these parameters, all these guidelines, the outcomes measures must be well planned. So, and the patient must be well informed in advance. The laboratory must be well informed in advance to do the analysis in proper time, and the staff, laboratory, if it is a Panchakarma procedure, the staffs must be well informed. So prerequisite, all these things are in a clinical trial, in particularly in Ayurveda, these are much more needed than a synthetic other drugs. But in Ayurveda, if you are doing this therapy based, or in case of even if the Anupana, Sahapana, what are the Anupana are supposed to be taken in a proper time, and then only the study outcomes will be well planned. Then study design. There are so many, particularly the pages of clinical trial. There we have in the now the approved, internationally approved clinical trials. There are previously 4. Now they are coming with phase 1 primary and secondary. Phase 1 divided in 2 parts. Then phase 2 0. They called previously it was called a 0. Now it is 1. Phase 1 in being 2 parts, preliminary, and then phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. So in this way, the phases clinical trials, in also Ayurveda also, the designs both these clinical trials in the different phases, and particularly the human pharma phase 1, which is non-therapeutic, and particularly to assess the dose of the safety of the drug after the first phase, particularly in the proprietary medicines, probable toxicity, where the phase 1 is exclusively to know the toxicity. So here, in case of Ayurveda, if, as I told previously, if it is a synthetic, if it is a drug of schedule E1 content, then it must be carried out the phase 1 study, particularly human pharmacology, where the toxic part is being assessed. It must be carried out in a proper way, and the steps must be taken. And here also, there in 2 cases, both single and multiple dose, particularly maximum tolerated dose, and only measurement of the drug activity is to be carried out. Then the second part comes the therapeutic exploratory trials, that is part 2, where the relative narrow criteria is there, and here the dose is being fixed. So here also, in case of as we have different dosage form, particularly the Twatha, Churna, Avleha, and people are coming with recent development with extract. It is the need of the hour also. We have the water extract medicines in Ghanabati forms, but hydroalcoholic extract and other methanolic extract are also nowadays used as a clinical medicines there. So this type of phase clinical trials is also highly essential, and it must be carried out. Physicians must be well informed in that part. Then comes our the types of clinical study. I'm not going to that details. So the next series of lectures will be there. What are the different types of clinical study? Then model of clinical study period, sample size calculations. But what I mean to say, as a prerequisite things, when we are applying, for a new project, if a principal investigator who is applying, he must be aware about all these things. And when it a project is continuing, the sample size must be well remembered by the physician, the principal investigator. And there should be clear-cut rules that regarding participant enrollment and the withdrawal. Participant enrollment and the withdrawal principle, the physician, the principal investigator must be well aware about that also. The project must be well designed. That is what should be, how the, in which conditions the patient will be withdrawn, the study will be totally withdrawn or study will be stopped in the if some clinical conditions arises, that should be also there. As I told about the rescue medicines must be well planned. If something goes wrong during the clinical trial, if you have particularly in case of COVID conditions, if the conditions worsen, what our second step, what medicines we are having to manage those conditions, it is to be well done, because we have to inform the ethics committee. Based upon that only, institutional ethics committee is going to give the approval. And as per the mandate of the recent mandate and the guidelines of the CCRS or ICMR guidelines, we can say the CTRA registration is must, and that must be in that case all these things are to be, when you register in the CTRI, all these things are supposed to be written there. And ethics and safety considerations is one of the major part of major concern in the clinical trials. So with this, and there are different types of clinical study where this is not going, I'm not going to have that detail. With this, I thank again the organizer for giving me the opportunity, and with this short time of 25 minutes time allotted to me, I try to complete my lecture here. Thank
You
sir.
cannot be binded in time, sir. Excellent presentation, Dr. Ravi. Excellent presentation. No
Thank you,
doubt.
sir.
This is
Great,
why
great.
Dr. Acharya got the best teacher award. We can get to know that so many depth, knowledge from the sir. And,
Congratulations. Delayed congratulations.
Sir got this best teacher award in 2017 from CCRS, and this is how we get to know that why he got this award.
Excellent. No doubt his system of teaching is good. Excellent.
Yes, sir. Now, I may ask the next speaker, Bhumi, to take the charge and take us forward in this webinar.
First introduce.
The Bhumi. Okay, sorry. Bhumi Vyas is handling a very good portfolio in clinical research in allopathy, as well as she's handling many Ayurvedic products as well. She's based in Ahmedabad as well as in London. She had, she's having vast knowledge and more experience in clinical research, particularly. She is having the core competence in clinical research, and she's doing this since more than 15 plus years now. And I would like Bhumi to take the stage and take us forward in this webinar.
Welcome, Bhumi.
You are mute. Okay.
Thank you. So thanks, Darshit, and thanks entire team for inviting me and holding this new concept and trying to bring Ayurveda into the mainstream, and the efforts that I see from the people over here and the enthusiasm, it will definitely bring a change into the healthcare system for sure. I think Mr. Acharya has taken lots of the things into consideration. I will share my presentation over here, and then we can just take it from there. I will move somewhat fast because I think we are in the crunch of the time. So, however, I will try to touch upon the things that we really need and understand that
it is visible.
So, giving just for an introduction, but here with me, everybody are scholars in the Ayurveda. So, when it comes to the Ayurveda, the tattvas and the initial theories of the Ayurveda, I would not be that good in it. But yes, I know the importance of Ayurveda with this long term in more than 15 years now into the industry and working not only for the allopathic clinical trials, but also for the Ayurvedic clinical trials. So, no doubt, there is no doubt in it that India is very rich in the tradition of medicinal wisdom. And we are having a very strong capability of bringing this medicinal wisdom of our traditional medicinal wisdom with the modern medicine. But some or the other way we have lagged behind. Either we have our roots, we have lost our roots and we are more focused towards the modern medicine, or at the same time we are not able to market our traditional medicine with the change with the time. With the establishment of Ayush, yes, there are lots of changes, and it is very appreciating that our Prime Minister has introduced Ayush, and with Ayush that there is lots of awareness that is being brought. And COVID, yes, I will definitely say COVID. COVID has brought lots of awareness with the healthcare system, and Ayurveda play a very, very important role in it because it gives you more focus on your living lifestyle. So currently our healthcare system has been recognized into 6, that is Ayurveda, Yoga, Naturopathy, Unani, Siddhi, and Homeopathy. Going ahead with it is a SWOT analysis. There is nothing that I would say a SWOT. What are the strengths of Ayurveda or our Ayush medicines, the 6 medicinal transitives? That it is very safe. We all know that there is minimum side effects of any of the Ayurvedic treatment or the homeopathic treatment or the naturopathic treatment. When we can say it would be negligible, the efficacy is very good if we are very prominent to our lifestyles, if we are very prominent to the Ayurvedic drugs, again with the, because Ayurveda is not only about drugs, correct? Ayurveda is more about the lifestyle that we are living. As it has been drugs are been supported with the lifestyle treatments that has been there. So the efficacy is also very good. It's traditional, and yes, the cost is the must. When we see the treatments that people go for the COVID, and the way we have seen that what happened when the bills were coming, at the same time we have seen people recovering because of the Ayurvedic treatment at home also. And the global demand, there is a huge demand globally. But the only factor that why we are not able to go to the global demand and why the Ayurvedic treatments, especially from Indian market, it's not reaching globally is just because that we are presently somewhere we are presently behind in publishing, in doing the clinical research, in establishing our good manufacturing and the good clinical practices into the system. So but there is a huge global demand across the world, because we have even seen the methi capsules that are been methi capsules and the haldi capsules been sold at a very hugely into the, and it's on a very high demand when I see in Europe, in China, or in the Southeast Asian countries, even in US, that there is a huge demand of this. Now coming, if this is not the strength, then why we are still behind it? It is because of the statistical data. There is a very lack of statistical data, and the lack of statistical data is because there is very less research going on in that. So more and more research will be done, more and more statistical data can be produced. That is the budget allocation. Yes, there are small Ayurvedic companies. The budget allocation is an issue because research and the clinical research or the GMP units or the ASO WHO units, it takes lots of money into it. So might the budget allocation is an issue. Quality of drugs, because there are very few companies who follow the GMP and the GCP areas of it. But the quality of drugs, because we think that a hair oil can be made at home also. Our mom also makes an hair oil, correct? And if it permits, I can even sell the hair oil in the market, but that's not the quality of the drugs. That if we want to go to an international market, then that can't be dispensing, diagnostic tools, and emergency management. So this all things are the weaknesses, but I will not say these are the weaknesses. These are the things where if we enlight, if we focus, then it can become an opportunity. And the opportunity is the lifestyle, the specific diseases. There are chronic diseases like asthma. There are most of the 90% of the chronic diseases, allopathy doesn't have any treatment. Whether we see as COPD, whether it says chronic diseases like coughing or allergic diseases. There are some gastrointestinal diseases. Allopathy doesn't have any of the complete cureness, or if they are curing it, then they are bringing, and if they are curing it, then they are bringing once again some more, I will say, they are bringing more complications into the health. So we can convert our weakness into opportunities because we have the strength on these areas. And the threat is that the Ayush doctor practice allopathy, which should not be done. Inadequately qualified people, we need to have more Ayurvedic doctors, we need to have more Ayurveda into the education level so that the knowledge is updated and we have more qualified Ayurvedic practitioners that practices Ayurveda. Now coming to the clinical research, that why important is GCP. So this is an overview of the clinical trial process. The study is being designed, the protocols and the CRFs and the consent forms are being made. What is a protocol? I think Acharya sir has added to it. Then it goes for a regulatory approval. Then the investigator sites have been selected. There is a continuous monitoring at the investigator sites. Agreements are been signed off with all the approvals. IEC and IRB approvals are being taken place, and the supply of IPs are being done. Monitoring visits, selection visits at different levels are being done by the CROs. Subject selection, enrollment, and drug administrations based on the inclusion-exclusion criteria mentioned in the protocol is being done. There are follow-up visits and the study procedures. Monitoring visits are being done. Adverse events has been reported and it has been handled as per the regulatory requirements. Multiple audits are being done by the quality assurance. Then there is a data management and statistical evaluation is run, and then it goes to a final report. And after that, it can, on which level of the clinical trial has been done, then there can be multiple journal submissions after this. Going with the principles of good clinical practices, it should be it should be ethical. The research involving humans should be scientifically sound. So we need Ayurvedic doctors who can conduct this type of clinical trials, because presently when we conduct, if I say a personal experience that when we want to conduct the Ayurvedic clinical trial, most of the companies of the Ayurveda says, we want the allopathy doctors to prescribe this medicine as a part of the clinical trial. But still, I strongly believe that if this has been done by an Ayurvedic researcher, then they would be doing it more perfectly because there would be more science into it. The design needs to be very much prescribed into the protocol. It needs to be scientifically justified. What would be the risk related to this? It needs to be, because the risk related to the individuals, the discomfort for the individuals who are going to be part of this trial, it needs to be very much identified into it. Benefit and risk assessment are very much that with this, whether already there is a drug or whether there is an IP available into the market, how our drug is going to be more beneficial, and is there an risk assessed with that? That needs to be, so that the right safety and the well-being of the research subjects are ensured. IEC and IRB review is very much compulsory. So once they get from the approval, then only we can start any of the clinical trials. Informed consent is something that each and every individual participating into the clinical trial needs to sign off, and that informed consent needs to be legally authorized, and it should be applicable with the land of the law. Continue review and ongoing benefit risk. Once a clinical trial is conducted, there should be a continued review. IEC is having the overall responsibility of reviewing and having a third eye on the clinical research organizations to ensure that the benefit and risk are remains with the favorable opinion for the subjects involved into the trial. Investigator qualification is very compulsory. Qualified and duly licensed medicinal personnel can only conduct such type of clinical trials. So again, I say that if it's an Ayurvedic clinical trial, Ayurveda doctors needs to be involved, and for that we need more and more Ayurvedic doctors who are well aware of Ayurveda. Should be responsible for medical care of research subjects or any decisions made on their behalf. We need qualified staff by education and training. We need the records. The records needs to be handled, stored, that allows any reporting, interpretation, and verification. Now, Malaysia in very short time is presently there is no law for the Malaysia, but in very short time, Malaysia is bringing a law that in case if we want to export, then not only a report needs to be submitted, but even that would be that such type of clinical trial will come under inspection for Ayurveda. So if we are saying that we are label claiming anything to it, and if we want to export anything into Malaysia, then they are bringing a law. Presently, we just have to submit the report, but now they would be coming and inspecting such type of trial. So at that point of time, the record handle and storage becomes very important, because that will show that how accurate the trial was being done, and whether the reporting, interpretation, and the verification has been done is as per the trial that was conducted years before. Clinical trials subjects confidentiality and privacy are must. We need to respect the trial subjects confidentiality and the privacy when they are participating into any of the trial. And good manufacturing practices. The IPs that are to be used in as a part of clinical trials needs to be manufactured as per the good manufacturing practice. And here, yes, we need to really work hard for the Ayurveda that the GMP needs to be followed, and that has to be adhered as per the protocol. The quality systems at every point of time, the quality needs to be respected at every aspect of the trial, and the procedures for the same should be pre-approved, and it needs to be a written protocol is required for GCP design standards. Investigative brochure is required. Scientific soundness has to be there in both investigative brochure and the protocol. Feasibility, whether this drug is going to be feasible, and which type of sites, which type of investigators we should be that should undertake this type of trials, that feasibility needs. We need adequate resources. Adequate resources in terms whether the clinical research organization is capable of doing it, whether the sites are capable of conducting such type of trials, and whether it's a randomized trial or a blinded trial. So any other designs, these are the different things that we need to take into consideration when we are designing any type of a clinical trial protocol. We need an IRB or a regulatory approval. It can be IRB or a IC under regulatory approval. So that is key. When we are doing an allopathic clinical trial, DCGI conducts this. So if we want to, but presently for Ayurveda, I would say that we need Ayush to be more stronger in it, and we need a centralized system for Ayurvedic clinical trials also. Compliance with the protocol is very much essential. Informed consent are must. Confidentiality of data is the primary key. And medical management of adverse events. So any adverse event that occurs after giving such type of drugs to our subjects, and medical management plays an important role over there. The product accountability is very essential. Qualification and training we already covered. CRF needs to be completed. CRF are the case record forms that during the course of the clinical trials, whatever the recordings are being taken are known as a CRF. So CRF needs to be completed, because the data from this CRF will further go for the statistical analysis. So that comes as a part of data handling. So all the CRFs and all the source records needs to be quite completed, and that data goes for the data management, and which goes into data handling. Security maintenance, we need to store such type of data for the next 5 years or next 15 years, depending upon where we are going to submit this data. And any point of time, if the inspector or the regulators wants this data, we need to make it available for them. The audit requirements we need to fulfill, it can be a sponsored audit, it can be inspection, it can be a third-party audits. Product accountability, again, plays a major role because most of the non-compliance that occurs during the clinical trial is the product accountability. There are many allopathic drugs which are being banned in the marketing or which are banned for the clinical trials is because of the product accountability. Companies were not able to reproduce their product accountability, that this many numbers of the products were being manufactured and this were being used for the clinical research, this were being used for the in vitro. So when such type of accountability is not being made available, or at that point of time, there are many eyebrows are being raised, and many investigation agencies have really banned the products of such type of companies. So management of study files and essential documents, each and every document that is being generated from the start of the protocol to the end of the report during the course of the clinical trials comes as a part of essential documents. Because it's one more a topic, so we'll just touch upon this essential documents over here in a very short time, that all the documents starting from the protocol with the end of the report, all the documents that are being generated as a part of the clinical trial needs to be managed, needs to be filed, needs to be handled, needs to be archived. Now, what are the reporting standards? Once the clinical trial is initiated, any adverse event, any protocol deviations, any progress, everything needs to be reported to sponsors, IRB and IC, regulatory authorities. For adverse events, there is specific guideline that how to report the adverse event within 24 hours to the regulatory authorities, to the sponsors, IRB and IC. Within 7 working days, the first report should go, and within 14 working days, the entire detailed report should go. And other investigators. So if one site is having an adverse event, then all the other 5 sites or 6 sites, whatever the sites are been involved during that clinical trial, all the other investigators needs to understand that such type of adverse event had happened at one site. Interim reviews, progress reports, and final reports. Now, overview of informed consent processes, that once the protocol has been signed off, once the protocol has been approved, then it goes to the IRB and IC, and they discuss the risk benefits. There is a requirement that how the IRB and IC panel is being involved. So, not going into detail, I have just prepared a single slide for it. That what they do is that they take care of the subjects, overall subjects willingness and overall subjects, I will say, the rights for the clinical trials. So they provide the informed consent form, they allow time for understanding to them, ensure comprehension. So when the informed consent process has been taken place, we need to give them sufficient time to go through the informed consent form. If they have any doubts, the investigator has to clear all the doubts. If they don't have any doubts, then the investigator should ask such type of questions that at least an investigator understands that, okay, they have gone through, they have understood the informed consent process, their willingness, and then participant signatures are being taken. In case if there are any updates during the course of the clinical trials, it needs to be updated to the participants. Investigators' responsibility is that they need to supervise all the parties and all the qualified staffs to whom he or she had delegated the duty. The integrity of the data, the integrity of the clinical trials needs to be monitored, and it's a holistic responsibility of the investigator. Adequate and accurate source documents and trial records. If we see in warning letters issued by US FDA or EU or MHRA, there are lots of warning letters being issued on source documents. And because of that, there are many rejections on the trials. And India stands in the red zone when it comes to the adequate and source document accuracy. Changes are traceable. If we are making any changes, changes needs to be traceable, it needs not to be obscured. So the ALCOA principles needs to be conducted. Now, sponsors' responsibility is that they identify what are the processes that are critical, what are the data that are identified, because which data is going to be for the statistical analysis, on which data the statistical analysis needs to be performed, which are going to be the safety parameters. So these two things needs to be on the critical side. They need to, so the sponsor can delegate this responsibility to the CRO, and most point of time the sponsor delegates his responsibility to CRO. So the CRO also needs to make and identify that how this type of, what are the critical process and the data that would be there, and what type of steps we would be able to impact that and implement so that such type of critical process and the data can be double QC'd or double checked. Access and evaluation of the risk, what would be the risk control, how we will communicate such type of risk, and how the risk would be reported. So such type of each and every, when the protocol has been prepared for each and every process and for each and every data, such type of risk-based approach is required to be taken care. Improved and more efficient approaches can be taken care when it comes to human subjects and reliability of trial results. We can have a good trial design. When I say a good trial design, it's more scientific trial design. The conduct needs to be very strong. The conduct needs to be very, very ethical and scientific. There should be a strong oversight. The recording of the data, the source data, the maintenance of the data, the IP accountability needs to be very much into place, and the reporting of all the adverse events, the serious adverse events to the regulators and the IRB-IC sponsors. So this is all, we come to the conclusion that quality data plus ethics is equal to GCP, whether it's allopathy, Ayurvedic, cosmetology, anything. Rights, integrity, confidentiality of trial subjects needs to be protected, that is ethics. And quality data is nothing but data and reported results are credible and accurate. And acceptance of clinical trial data by regulators globally is adherence to GCP. If our clinical trial data has been accepted globally, then it's an adherence to good clinical practice. Thank you so much, and thanks for giving us the opportunity. Thank you.
Excellent, madam. Excellent.
Ma'am, in such a short notice, she prepared so many things and enlightened us. And yes, Bhumi is there.
Yes, I am here.
Yes. So thank you very much, Bhumi ma'am. In such a short notice,
Thanks.
you have accepted our invitation and prepare everything, enlighten us, share your knowledge, and we are looking after looking forward for rest of the webinars also. Okay. So now I would like to request Dr. Pawan Sharma ji to take the stage and enlighten us on the further on the same topic. Dr. Pawan Sharma, I don't have to introduce him, as today is a Guru Purnima and he is my guru. So I just take his blessings and just please sir.
हरिओम, नमस्कार, सभी को नमस्कार। इतने सुंदर प्रेजेंटेशन के बाद बोलने में को कुछ नहीं रह जाता, लेकिन फिर भी मैं आयुर्वेदिक आदमी हूं, वो आयुर्वेदिक श्लोक से बात शुरू करता हूं। प्री रिक्विजिट्स की बात चल रही है, तो ये तो कानून हो गया जो हम लोगों ने अभी तक डिस्कस किया, ये कानून है। विषक द्रव्याण उपस्थाता रोगी पाद चतुष्टयम, ये हमारे यहाँ कहा है कि रोगी, उपचारक, औषधि और डॉक्टर भिषक जो है, ये चार चिकित्सा के पाद हैं। पाद कहा मीन्स स्ट्रॉन्ग। तो जब हम क्लिनिकल रिसर्च की सोचते हैं तो सबसे बड़ा प्री रिक्विजिट जो आता है वो चार आते हैं। भिषक द्रव्याण उपस्थाता चारों है। भिषक चाहिए, इन्वेस्टिगेटर चाहिए। सबसे पहले कानून बाद में याद आएगा, पहले इन्वेस्टिगेटर चाहिए। कौन इन्वेस्टिगेटर होगा? नंबर 1। द्रव्य कौन सी औषधि होगी? ड्रग का भी फाइनलाइजेशन एंड स्टैंडर्डाइजेशन बिफोर क्लिनिकल ट्रायल इज इक्वली इंपॉर्टेंट एज पर द जीसीपी लॉ। नंबर 2। Number third is most important, subject. Whether we can get the subject in this territory or not. Otherwise, we have to arrange the subjects from suburban or local area. So subject is रोगी, रोगी, विषाद, ये सब हमारी क्लिनिकल रिसर्च के चतुष्पाद है. और दो पाद और बड़े इंपॉर्टेंट हैं. नंबर 1 CRO, number 2 pathology lab. So if we go to first requisite from private industry point of view, first requisite is CRO, second requisite is a doctor, because we have made already drug with us, so Dravya is already there. So I don't want to say more than this, that we have to collect, we have to identify 4 paths of this GCP before starting the law. So I would like to request, please, I don't want to say anything more in front of these learned speakers, because they have said what I want to say. But 4 persons, 4 Chatushpad, what I told, now Chatushpad CRO is most important, because other paths except drug can be arranged by CRO. So there is no headache for investigator, there is no headache for sponsor, there is no headache for drug manufacturer, whoever they may be. So, in my opinion, if we want to conduct clinical research, definitely we have to consider this law important, and first and foremost, best CRO and best investigator. 2 must be identified before starting trial, before starting prerequisites of the trial. These prerequisites are definitely essential, and we should find out, and CROs are now increasing. Dheeraj, Darshit is there, Bhumi is there, Dheeraj was there. So CROs are increasing. I want to request all CROs to come together on this platform to enlighten the society, and definitely by uniting the CRO, this business in India will also flourish. I am confident for that. All the best. Now 3:30 is there. I would like to invite Dr. Vishnu Prasad Sharma ji for his concluding remarks. If anybody wants to ask or say anything, any question from any, Dr. Lakshmi Priya ji is also there. Namaskar. Dr. Arjun Baghel is there. Dr. Lakshmi Priya is there.
Pawan
Any
sir.
question from the
Pawan
audience?
sir.
Yes.
Sir, एक one query about what are the potential CROs who are is there any list that who can conduct clinical trials, who are in forefront of conducting clinical trials in Ayurvedic drugs? Your experience.
Pardon, please repeat.
Any CROs in India, those who are in forefront or those who are interested in doing clinical research in herbal drugs and with Ayurvedic principles?
Means here in Calcutta, we had established the National Pharmaceutical Consultancy Services, which has conducted 122 clinical trials for Imami, DXN, and other companies on Ayurvedic principles, number 1. Now, due to government law, name has been changed to MedPharma CRO, because national we can't put in any private organization. Otherwise, previously it was National Pharmaceutical Consultancy Organization, and we were conducting and we are conducting on Ayurvedic principle. If anybody has any project, please can conduct. I have been retired on 28th. So I hope I can concentrate
Acharya
on
sir,
clinical research.
Acharya sir, my recommendation is MedPharma, because I have experience of an Ayurvedic product for a company. So please, if you can, you place with 1 or 2 product to MedPharma. Please help us.
Dr. Anil Shukla was the founder of, is the founder of Vedic Life Sciences CRO in Mumbai. Vedic Life Sciences was the first CRO being established, was established for clinical research of Ayurvedic products by Dr. Anil Shukla in Mumbai.
Acharya sir,
Yeah.
we were first in India in 1999. We started in 2000. We conducted trial for Vaidyanath, the Martho tablet in 2000 sir, 21 years back. So for
Okay.
that trial, we invested from our company. The trial was not supported well by the sponsor. I'm not naming properly. You know that industry is not willing to spend too much money in clinical research. So this is the status of Indian manufacturer Imami. Later on, conducted handsomely. They spend the money, but we got some US product to conduct here as not Ayurvedic principles, but on the GCP guidelines. So we did
Okay.
some, we have experience. Now I'm associated with
Thank you.
Medpharma with blessings of Sharmaji. So we can do, sir, something.
I don't
I
know.
hope Dr. Ravi's answer is there.
Yeah. Now Madan sir is going
If
to
any,
say
if
something.
any project is there, we are ready to bridge between GCP and Ayurvedic principles, and we can conduct in Eastern Zone anywhere where the institute or sponsor desires.
Even
Yes,
even
yes.
in medical colleges also, sir. Even in medical colleges also, with association
Yes, yes.
of the Ayurvedic doctors, we have conducted with the leading this rheumatologist, India's best rheumatologist, Dr. Jyotsna Oak. We did Martho, rheumatoid arthritis and Amvata in Ayurveda. Not too much Ayurvedic principles followed 20 years back, but now we can include in our protocol that as per CCRS new guidelines and even the suggestions of Acharya sir, we can add the Ayurvedic principles like Prakriti, Mal, Mutra, etc. We can
Recently, this
put in our protocol.
database had been added in CTRI registration. New
There is-
portal
there is-
of CTRI has been
Yes, there
launched
is-
by our minister, and now, according to Madanji, Ayurvedic Tattva are involved in that CTRI data.
New portal has been launched by the CTRI in connection with the CCRS. So we are having now dedicated portal for the clinical trials in India. So Indian guidelines are going to be changed within the next 3 months, and we are going to establish our own portal. On that portal, it will be differently. We are going to get recognized.
Otherwise, CCRAS has already issued guidelines for clinical research of ASU medicines.
Yes,
That
yes.
is separate. Yes.
Dr. Vishnu Prasad Sharma sir is going to ask us or going to share something. Please, we are having a little time. So, Dr. Vishnu Prasad Sharma.
Madan ji
Madanji,
also want to say something.
Madanji कुछ बोलना चाहते हैं.
Hanji, thank you. Darshit ji,
Yes, sir.
Acharya ji, and Pavan ji and Shukla ji, namaskar. The point, I think what Acharya ji is pressing us, he says, are we able to conduct large clinical trials that respects the tattvas? So I think Acharya ji has presented, I think the point he made with the Panchakarma studies, because India is now setting itself up as a WHO global center for this kind of thinking, and it will be based in Jamnagar. So I think I want to come back to Acharya ji's comment and the demand from him, which is how many of our CROs, पिछले बार भी थे हमारे साथ काफी excellent presentations. Now, I think we need to come together. I think we should delegate, if I take the liberty of saying, I think we should delegate the task to Acharya ji, because that is going to be the WHO Collaborating Center for Traditional Medicine. And I second Acharya ji's request that we should all come together, maybe in Jamnagar, Acharya ji, to discuss, to spend a little more time on discussing this point. You know, Bhumi ji has offered details. Pichhle baar we had a presentation with many lovely details. Even Pavan ji presented last time. I think we have a collective group now with the vision and also commitment to do this. I want to just touch on 2 or 3 examples. I gave you post-COVID, you know, the request is that we look at something like Arjun Rasayana. Maybe that will work, but it's a complex formulation. Maybe some Pipli-based approach might benefit some people. If we all agree on a clinical trial design, can we come together to, the Ayurveda expert also has to come, the CRO person also has to come, because Bhumi's presentation today is so detailed, it's lovely. Can we all come together around a strong institution? Jamnagar seems a good place. In my last few discussions, I said Uttarakhand must become another place for us for many things. Calcutta must become another place for many things. So like this, I think collectively, we have a vision, we have a desire, and out of that desire will come one vision. I think Acharya-ji today, Acharya-ji's presence here is very, very important for us, because he is bringing us that focus on Jamnagar. You know. So Acharya-ji, your comment is deeply appreciated. Thank you so much for your presentation. Your comment is taken. Ki who can do a completely Ayurveda-driven, Ayurveda Tattva consistent clinical trial? So please take us through, sir. We look forward to you in Jamnagar to bring us all together, and we will all be with you, and we will come together with even more people to learn how to design a consistent trial. It must be consistent with Tattvas, it must be consistent with Shastra, and then of course, Vyavahar, we will see that side, how to make it consistent with these things. So Pavanji, my request is, as you are also alumni of Jamnagar and many others, you know, Joshiji, it is a big refocus on Jamnagar. So please let us see if Acharya-ji, we can connect with Acharya-ji to take something back to Jamnagar and to see what structure it should be. So my feeling is come back to Jamnagar. So that's my comment. And number two, Acharya-ji's insistence that it must be consistent with Ayurvedic Tattvas and Shastra. So I feel the last comment I want to make here is, if we go down that path, we will not only be doing Ayurveda service, but we will also be doing modern biology a big service. There are areas of modern biology. I want to give you one small example, mitochondrial DNA. हर एक cell के अंदर mitochondrial DNA. If we push in that direction, we will understand, we will be helping the world understand those mitochondrial biology, metagenomics, bacterial, gut microbiome and the vagal tone. Apana Vayu is understood in Ayurveda, and the modern biology is struggling to come to a language like Apana Vayu, Panchavayu concept. You know, they don't know how to do it, but we already have it here for 5,000 years. And I think we can make a good dialogue happen across the world, not only for India, but around the world on those deep principles. So I'm looking to Jamnagar for guiding us and bringing us together. I'm looking to Acharya-ji for helping us, and Bhumi-ji and other people are there, you know, Cadila and all those people are there. So many people are there in Sun Pharma, are all sitting in Gujarat. So I feel there is an opportunity for all of us to come together for the sake of Ayurveda and also for guiding future research in modern biology. Acharya-ji,
thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. लेकिन एक आखिरी बात सब लोगों के बीच में रह जाती है, सर, कि लक्ष्मी के बिना कुछ नहीं है. आज गुरु पूर्णिमा के दिन ये स्पष्ट बात है, अर्थ करीच विद्या, विद्या से ही सब अर्थ से शुरू होता है, अर्थ पे खत्म होता है. After this GCP series, we will go for, I am Vice President of Ayurvedic Drug Manufacturer Association of India, West Bengal. So we will start a collaborative webinar with the Ayurvedic drug manufacturers, because they are the sponsors. So after completing this GCP series, the next series will be started with the Ayurvedic drug manufacturer. So all questions will be answered there. Before concluding remarks, I would like to invite Dr. Venkat Joshi ji from UK for his remarks for blessings. Dr. Venkat Joshi ji.
नमस्कार नमस्कार डॉक्टर मदन जी, पवन जी, थैंक यू वेरी मच, थैंक यू. मैं तो इस कार्यक्रम में श्रोता बन चुका हूं, मगर डेफिनेटली द फ्यूचर रियलिस्टिक रिसर्च शुड बी बेस्ड ऑन दिस holistic approach where Ayurveda can find answers to have such a kind of beautiful approach for health prevention, to promotion, and as well as rejuvenation. And as you mentioned, post-COVID situations, Madanji already knows, because he is very much associated with All Parliamentary Party Group, and as well as Dr. Middlesex Hospital, Dr. Kolasho, and where an integral body of research is established. And then we're looking forward, I think, not to disclose, but Madanji knows very well how the two governments are being collaborating for such kind of post-COVID long research, and then we'll possibly come out of it. And definitely I would like to share, because in West, it's all about the food and food as medicine-based researches. What I am trying to do is like मंडूकपर्णी स्वरसा प्रयोज्य नित्य रसायन के रूप में जो मध्यस्थी के साथ में, और जैसे डॉक्टर मदन जी बताएं कि गोट्स मिल्क के बारे में, सो वी हैव कुष्मांड रसायन, सो कुष्मांड स्वरस यहाँ पर जो अच्छे मिलता है। तो ऐसे जो फूड एंड फूड बेस्ड rejuvenation programs are much more appreciated in UK for the well-being and restoration of the health and promotion. So definitely I look forward for हमारे रवि जी है जामनगर में, and then मदन जी and सभी के साथ में we will have a wonderful unity and integrity for the well-being of Ayurveda. Jai Dhanvantari, Jai Namaste.
One last information, sir. Sorry, I am crossing my time. We have started new global series, global Ayush series. From 29th, we are starting global Ayush series. Will be dependent on the local time of that country. We will cover 50 countries in first initial stage. And I am grateful to Dr. Venkat Joshi and Dr. Madan Thangavelu. On 30th, we have invited 12 speakers from UK with the blessings of Dr. Madan and Dr. Venkat. And 12 speakers will highlight the scope and practice in United Kingdom. On 29th, we have planned and finalized to have for USA, scope and practice of Ayurveda in USA. So USA, then UK, and then 50 country. I am very much grateful to all seniors. Please join, please support this holy mission, and this mission will infinite, Shashwat, Anant, Achintya, like
Thank you.
Ayurveda.
सर विष्णु शर्मा जी रह गए सर, बदले था, आपने इनवाइट किया था सर, नहीं बोले।
विष्णु शर्मा जी मेरे गार्जियन है, वो कंक्लूडिंग रिमार्क मेरे गार्जियन है, वो मेरे यहाँ समझ लीजिए गुरु नहीं है, गुरु नाम गुरु है, जय हो। So now I am inviting Dr. Vishnu Prasad Sharma ji, President, Vishwa Ayurved Parishad Assam, ex-principal Guwahati Ayurvedic College, my guardian, Vishwa Ayurved Parishad's guardian, and in charge of total Northeastern state. Welcome, sir. Welcome.
Okay, thank you. Namaskar. Respected Professor Madan Thangavelu, respected Dr. Pawan Kumar Sharma-ji, respected Dr. Venkat Joshi, today's moderator, dear eminent speaker, distinguished guests, audience, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I offer my sincere thanks to Professor Madan Thangavelu for inaugurating this today's webinar. And on his talk, he said that we have to give stress to do research on area of Swastavita and post-COVID or long COVID research. So thank you, Professor Madan Thangavelu, for inaugurating this today's webinar. Next, I would like to offer my sincere thanks to today's eminent speaker, Dr. R.N. Acharya. He nicely described prerequisite for the clinical trial. He gives stress on validation of principle, established dose of medicine, duration and dose, indication as per classics. He gives stress regarding clinical trial drug should be standard one. In Panchakarma also, he nicely explained prerequisite things. Again, he described vividly study protocol, also he vividly described. So thank you, Dr. R.N. Acharya, for your excellent presentation. Next, I would like to offer my sincere thanks to Dr. Bhumi. She has presented her talk very nicely, wonderful. wonderful. She has nicely explained the short analysis. She said that Ayurvedic medicine like haldi capsule, methi is highly demanded in abroad. She has given stress use of Ayurvedic doctors, Ayurvedic medicine. She nicely described the clinical trial process, vividly described principle of GCP, overview of informed consent process, nicely described investigator responsibility. Thank you, Dr. Thomi, for your excellent presentation. Next, I would like to offer my sincere thanks for Pawan Kumar Sharmaji for organizing a very wonderful seminar on GCP clinical research on Ayurveda. Thank you, thank you. Next, I would like to offer my sincere thanks to the moderator for conducting the today's meeting very nicely. Thank you to all. Namaskar.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Good day. Have a good day. Thank you,
Okay.
speakers,
thank you.
audience, resources, guides.